Hello everybody and welcome back to my channel. Today I am decided to make a little challenge for myself. Not that I never have done that before because I pretty much always make it challenging for myself. But today I thought I would do something that kind of easy but not really. So I'm going to follow a dress tutorial to make the dress. But the dress tutorial is for a human. It's also in metric measurements, so because it is, and I don't know how to use that, and I'm going to be trying to make it for a doll, so I'm gonna have to figure out how to shrink everything in. And so the tutorial I'm going to be using for this video is DIY easy Victorian inspired classic dress plus underneath ruffle skirt Lolita inspired fashion DIY. And it was by Yumi King, which she put up on August 18th, 2016. Yumi King is one of the first sewing YouTubers, fashion that I watched. That sounded like a Wish ad or something. Annika Victoria was like the first one because hers were a bit more simple and easy to do. But Yumi King has a lot more like interesting Lolita inspired different things, so like ruffly things or anime like clothes, and I thought that, I would really love to like make some of those outfits. Not that I could ever really wear them because they seem a bit too girly for me, which I know that's like sexist or something, but I don't like being stereotypical, okay? So I'm gonna try making one for my doll first, and then if it turns out well, we'll see. Maybe I'll make one for me. So hold on. So that's what the final product of her video looks like. It's there's a big white ruffly underskirt, so it's got like 6 layers of ruffles, and then there's an overdress type thing that only has 1 layer of ruffles and is basically like a sweetheart's top with straps, and then a skirt that has a ruffle on the bottom, and then there's a bow. I probably won't do this exactly the same, but I'm going to attempt to follow the pattern. However, the fabrics will obviously be super different since I'm using a lot of scrap fabric that I just have, and I don't care as much about this dress being color scheme wise super pretty. I do actually have some nice fabric out, but I am trying to do scrap fabric first, so we'll just see how it goes. So I'm gonna start by making the ruffled underskirt, and we'll see if that goes well, since I've never made ruffles before at all in my life. Yay! So the first step in Yumi's video was to make a half circle skirt. So that is what I did. She also recommended using easycalculation.com to find your measurements. So for the doll that I'm currently using, and I measured about an inch above her hips or so for the waist, and it was 11 inch. I typed in the circumference of her waist, which was 11 inches, and the length of the skirt, which I wanted, which was 5 inches, and it gave me the radius of the skirt, which would be 2.86, and the length would be 9.36. So then you would take pretend this is a corner of a like piece of cloth. You would fold it like, all the way, making sure that the edges of everything line up, and then measure the first distance from the top to here and the second distance from the top to all the way down at the bottom. Or you can measure the first distance from top to here and then just measure whatever length you want from here to the bottom, and it'll come out the same. So that was the first step. So after cutting out the half circle skirt, this is what it looks like cut out. You're going to want to hem the whole thing. She said do a rolled hem, but I don't think I can do that. I don't know. This fabric that I'm using, I don't really know what kind of fabric it is, but if you can tell by looking at it, it's kind of fraying, and it's also really thin, which my sewing machine really doesn't like. Then you're going to want to divide your skirt into 4 equal sections. My skirt's about 5 inches long, so my sections are about 1 inch. So this section's an inch, this section an inch, this section's an inch, this section's an inch, and this section's about half an inch because I'm going to put one more ruffle on the end. These are the lines that you're going to sew your ruffles onto. So I am going to see if I can fit 6 on mine. So there will be one here, one on each of the blue lines, so that's 5, and then one here before we put the waistband on. So the next part I'm assuming, I haven't watched it yet, will be to cut out all the rectangles of fabric, which will be I did watch it, but I didn't watch this section yet, so I'm pretty sure in the video it says 1.5 inches longer than whatever length you made your sections. But I am doing it in a much smaller scale, so I think I'll do it by 1/2 inch longer instead of 1.5 inch, higher, 1/2 inch higher. And I don't know how long each of these is going to have to be, so there's going to be some guesstimation in there, but I'll come back when I've got all my ruffle pieces cut out and at least one of them sewn on, which will probably take me a little bit of a while. So guys, you know the summer outfit out of a curtain thing, and how I told you guys not to use that kind of fabric because it's really bad? Well, I didn't listen to my own advice, and I was trying to use up the leftover fabric, so the first layer of ruffles I did with that, and the actual ruffle itself looks semi-okay on this side, because this side it was already double hemmed and everything, but on this side I followed what the video said, so it only said to hem one edge, so I didn't hem the other edge, and yeah, it didn't work very well. I had to go back and re-sew a bunch of things, and I know that it's going to fray and come off and be really gross and bad and eat. So I took the fabric that I used for the base and made another one, and I'm gonna put this ruffle over it because the line to go over it is just like a tiny bit higher than it, so I'll just put this over it, and then hopefully that'll cover up the bad messed up bits and they won't fray as much because they'll be covered by something else. But I hemmed all 4 sides of these. They are just a lot skinnier, so I don't know where I can use them. But now I have really long strips of fabric, and I'm not sure if I should try to use them for ruffles because they're way too small now to be used. So we'll see how much fabric and ruffles I'm able to get out of the base fabric of this, and if I run out, then I'll use that as the top layer or something. But I'm pretty sure this will be a lot better, because look at this, it's so much nicer and not trying to destroy itself and escape. Yeah. Okay, so I've put this same color cloth layer on, and as you can see, it looks so much better. There's still the underneath layer, but I feel like that just gives it a bit more bounce. So because the top layer is not as ruffled, it's just sort of bunched a little bit. But the other layers I think will try to be all out of this cloth, except maybe the top one if I run out of fabric. So it looks pretty cute right now. So yeah, I know there's stuff going on in the background, but look, I finished it. Not completely, obviously, but I got all the ruffles on, which took absolutely forever because, so as you can see, I have the bottom layer that I messed up on, so we're just covering that up and pretending it doesn't exist, so there's a little floof. And then that's number 2. This is the 3rd, 4, 5, and 6. So, now that this bit is done, I'm going to check the tutorial, but I believe I have to make a waistband, and then the tutorial is going to say put in a zipper. But I don't have any zippers, human size or otherwise, so I'm going to try and sort of hem down the side a little bit and make all these floofs on the edges, very, regular and in order, and then I'm going to try and sew together up to about here, and then put hook and eye clips on in a way that makes sure that it closes all the way, so there's not a little slit in the back. So hopefully I'll be able to do that. So the skirt is actually finished for real, and it almost actually fits it all this time, so that's nice. I probably should have left a bit more seam allowance on the actual base piece, because As you can see in the back, there's a tiny hole, but this is with like the pins in it. The top part of this outfit though should come down to about here in the back, so this will get covered up and then you'll just have the buttons for the rest of it. So we'll just see how that goes, but this skirt took me like 5 hours or something, I think. I don't know. It felt like a really, really, really long time. But I think for something that I have made, it turned out pretty well. And also never, 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 never sew anything with this fabric or this fabric here. They are the same. Don't do it. I don't know if you can tell in this camera light, but this fabric that I'm using, the regular stuff, is, oh, don't look at her butt, that's rude, is like off-white, but it's also got like here there's a purple bit, and that's because this is fabric that I used when I was a lot younger, so I got like chalk and other stuff on it to make it more interesting. And I'm hoping that even when this is washed, and if it doesn't fall apart in the washing machine, those colors will stay and it'll be like an interesting sort of skirt and not just sort of a boring white. So, yeah. Now I have to make the top part, which is going to be a lot harder. No, actually it won't. I don't know. Tops are always really hard. I can make skirts like really well for me and everything else, but tops are just like, well, but this doll doesn't have a chest that we have to worry about, so hopefully it will be a bit better than that. Alright everybody, so I am on to making the top, and this entire challenge has taken a lot longer than I thought it would, but I have also been doing other things at the same time, so yeah, so I've moved on to the top, and Yumi has a link at the bottom of the current video that I'm using to a different video with the tutorial to make the top, and I have tried to use this tutorial to make a pattern for a bodice for a dress for me, which I like cut it out like 3 times because I couldn't figure out how to get it right, and then it still wasn't right, and we'd had to fix it after I'd sewed it together. It fit it to me that way, so I don't know how this is gonna work, but I think I did okay, so I'm gonna show you the patterns and tell you what the measurements are, and at the end I actually went through and wrote down all the measurements I used and then what you should probably use, and I'm going to tell you those at the end as sort of like a summary of what I did in case you got confused in the middle because I messed up a lot. Alright, so I have the pattern pieces. So this is the bodice front pattern, and so what I have is here to here is 2 inches, here to here is 4.5 inches, and then at the top, 1/2 inch down, I put a mark, and then I just sort of drew some curves, and then I cut it on the fold so that the curve would be the same. I don't know how that's going to turn out. It might not be a very sweetheart neckline. It might just be sort of a neckline that exists. So then this is the side, and this part is 4.5 inches, this part is 3 inches, this part is 2 inches, and this I just sort of drew a line again. I didn't really use that much measuring, so we'll see how that goes. And then the back piece is 3 inches by 3 inches. Because it, like, I left it this much because I want it to overlap in the back when I close it, because I'm going to have to put snaps or something in to close it, and I want it to actually look nice when it's shut and actually shut all the way, so I gave it an extra inch. If you don't want to do it that way, that's totally fine. So I cut out the pieces and I sewed them together, and I made 2 bodices because when we made it for me, we made the bodice a bit more thick, and the fabric I'm using is pretty thin. So I made 1, and then I made another one, and I don't think she does this in her video. It, like, you can see her kind of doing it. Like, she uses a fabric behind it or something that I don't know exactly. Also, I did seam allowance on these 2 pieces, the bodice and the side bodice, like the front and the side, but I didn't use seam allowance on the back because I'd already like calculated for that. So you can see how they're a bit wonky. But the next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to stick them right sides together. I did draw on the right side, so it's got blue on the edges, but you know, it's fine. I'm going to stick them right sides together, like so, and then pin them along the top and sides and sew that. So along here and here, and that way the sides, and then I'll turn it right side out. And so then that way it'll actually be kind of thick, not super see-through. It'll look nice, and I recommend doing it on the things that you do. Also, I may or may not do this, but some people would, when it was right side out, sew down the seam lines one more time to keep that, you know, like structured look, because if you don't, sometimes it can make it look sort of billowy when you connect this bit to the skirt part that I haven't made yet. So, but that's where I am now. So let's keep going. So obviously it's not finished yet, but the bodice is done and it looks like it's gonna fit pretty well. The pattern tutorial does say that you need straps, but I think it might not need straps. I will probably put them on anyways, but I don't know if I'm gonna actually need them because of how much, like, I don't have a ton of overlap in the back, but I have enough that there won't be holes. So there's a bug in here. I know, I'm sorry. Like, you can't really tell, but there's at least enough overlap that I won't have a hole like there. It's going to be covering that up. And then, you know, I'm going to have to hem this a bit, but, you know, we can get to that later. So the video cuts some up the side of the skirt, but so where the underskirt sits on the doll right now, it makes this skirt really short already, so I'm just going to put the ruffle on the bottom of the skirt without cutting it up more. And so basically what I'm doing for that is I'm cutting out a really, really long strip of fabric that is 2 inches high by forever, and I'm going to hem it all sides of it, and then I'm going to sew it on with a little bit sticking out up at the top. I'm going to have all sides of it, and then I'm going to ruffle it with a little bit sticking over the top and then hem it onto here. I also think I'm going to hem here first as well. And then I'll figure out how to connect it in the back, and after straps, this should be done. Also, so for this half circle skirt, I used 12 inches instead of 11 inches as the waist measurement, which is why it's actually fitting her, like, well. It's a little big, but because it's a dress, that's fine. And I made it 4 inches instead of 5 inches long. And this is 5 inches and this is 4 inches, but the waists that they're at are very far away from each other. If I get this one up like most of the way, then it's a little bit longer on it, but I don't know. Is that any better? It doesn't seem much better to me. But I think when you put the ruffle on, it'll look a lot better, and I'm almost done, so I'm happy about that. No one's called me outside to get gross or dirty yet either, so I just smell like cleaning supplies, and I dumped a bowl of like soapy water on myself, and I still smell like soapy water, but my skirt's dry, and my shirt's almost dry, so that's good. Alright, so technically the dress is actually finished. The bodice is done, it's connected to the skirt, the ruffles are on the skirt, they don't actually look heinous, so that's great. And then I was able to also put the buttons on the back without messing up too badly. I made it so you can't see them, but there's like a giant flap. But you know what, it's fine. This is a lot better than the other thing, and actually I think this dress looks better without the thing underneath it. So I don't know. The only thing is that this part is a tiny bit see-through, so she might be getting flashed, but she doesn't have anything under there, so it's fine. And it's actually staying up. Like, if I pull on it, it doesn't come down, so I don't think it needs straps. Well, maybe it does. The front comes down, but the back doesn't. So, I might put some straps on it, or I might just put a little tiny tie strap like I did on the yellow dress. I think then I will actually be finished. And I will show you what it looks like with the skirt underneath, but actually I think it looks great like this. And then my next project will be trying to make this outfit for myself since it wasn't a complete failure, so yeah. Alright, these straps are on. They are different sizes, yes, I noticed that. And just have them tied in the back, so now you can see like a full all the way around version. And where the skirt is on her currently is where I meant for the skirt to be on the original piece, but you know, stuff doesn't always work out like that. So here's what she looks without it, and then I'll show you again with the skirt thingy underneath on. So here she is with the skirt underneath. Actually, right now I have pushed it up a bit, so it is more scrunched up down here, so there would be even more layers showing. And then, so the original design had a little sort of slit like this, and then the ruffles would have gone up it as well, but I thought the skirt compared to the skirt was already so long, I didn't want to make it too even more short because that would just not look good. And as it is, I think that this turned out so much better than this. Although this turned out like fairly well, this turned out like an actually not heinous piece of clothing that I created. And yeah, so I think I did a really good job. I would call this part a success, and this part I learned how to make ruffles. So thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you guys really enjoyed this video, and have a great day. Goodbye.